Okay, let's test this out. This is my map. Kind of looks pretty quickly made, but I mean, it sort of was. But the research behind it was, it wasn't super hard to find. But I found basically a lot of Vancouver climate data, and that's kind of basically what I based my map on. So if you look behind all of these squares, I wish there was a way to make it more transparent. Found a way to do that. Anyways, behind this is all of not all of, but like a lot of it is New Westminster. That's the city I grew up in, right? And things. So let's just start off by pointing this part out. The busiest road start and where it continues, right? I kind of drew a black line to highlight the space that I wanted to talk about. So this kind of starts off on Stewardson Way, rather. Goes along here, this black line, and eventually merges onto something called Front Street, which is kind of the front, kind of the quayside, right? And it goes on, and it goes on all the way up here, and it keeps on going, okay? This is, in my opinion, like the busiest street in the city, because this is where all the transport vehicles and industrial transports kind of go through. So many large trucks carrying all kinds of things to industrial sites. And yeah, with it, it's like such big trucks, and not just like industrial vehicles, but also like passenger vehicles. So many people drive through here to get through New West, coming in from Richmond or parts of Burnaby, I guess, through Marine. This is Queensboro? I guess it is. Yeah. And they go through here to get through, I don't know, Coquitlam or Surrey and other places. So much vehicle transport. And what that leads to is ultimately a bunch of emissions in the area, but also a lot of noise pollution. Unfortunately, I couldn't find too much noise pollution data to incorporate. There wasn't any, I guess, sensors depicting that data. Even air quality was pretty easy to find. It's pretty good, and actually, if you click on this is interactive. The ppm, it's in ppm, part per million. And basically we were looking for particles of 2.5 micrograms. So that's kind of it's the particle size of the, I guess, stuff in the air, like the dirt, the ash, whatever, the exhaust. And this stuff is especially harmful to all kinds of things. Think of it like kind of like emissions. I think those are particle 2.5 micrograms, but the concentration of it in the air is, it's like 8.1 micrograms of these tiny particles in the air, which is actually pretty good. So actually I'll explain this now. So what I have here is I have this whole split between the past present 1960s 1990s, and also projected 2050 outcomes. Now what these categories represent, these squares aren't exclusive to this area. This kind of just represents a category. Imagine it like it's actually just everywhere. I just didn't want to color the entire map like one or two colors. This just kind of shows contrasting categories of climate. And so yes, imagine like if I was talking about this climate over here. The whole map is yellow. Like for pretty much the entire New West Burnaby area, it's pretty much this. Okay, this kind of encompasses the entire Burnaby New West area. It gets a bit different as soon as you head like further up north, but for the most part, this is the trend. So, yeah, like I say, the air quality in like this part of Canada in general is actually quite good. Well, I should say that. Just we have a lot of exhaust. Car exhaust, but relatively speaking, 8.1 is pretty good. It's like really, really good air quality compared to a lot of other places. Now, I looked at climate data from the 1960s, 1990s to about now. We have about, and again, these figures are on an average day, so throughout the year. So these are just averages. They're not like highs and lows. They're like kind of taking averages. Our climate, we get about 10 to 10.1 to 10.5 degrees or so. And again, with the worst outcomes, if we compare in 2050, the future will go up from about 11.51 to 12 degrees on average. Okay, that's like a whole 2 degrees up in just about 30 years of as of recording. It's quite a lot, and it'll only continue. You can imagine 1 or 2% doesn't sound like a lot, but the implications on the actual ecology is actually quite a domino effect. A lot of things can actually change because of this just 2 degree difference. It's actually quite impactful. Next, we have the precipitation. So currently we have about 300 to 325 millimeters. It goes without saying, it's Vancouver, right? We get quite a lot of precipitation, but because of that, and because of the increase in temperature, right, we get more rain projectedly. We get about 25 millimeters more rain. So again, more implications, right? It's a small amount, but this is on average. Okay, so imagine that 25 millimeters, but multiplied by, I don't know, let's say 180 days. Let's say every other day rains. Not likely, but maybe a third. Okay, let's say multiply by 120. That's no small amount. That actually adds up, doesn't it? Now we have frost-free days. Oops, nope. Over here. So on average, we have about 304 to 311 days without frost. Okay. I mean, yeah, we have a certain temperature, and that's to be expected. So if I look at here, it goes up to about, about 20 days, 24 days. It's about a whole month, another month without frost. So you can imagine how warm it'd be by this time. And yeah, went over air quality, but again, there's not enough data for future air quality to kind of project. You can obviously probably just imagine it'd be worse. Now, where does this all fall in? I was talking about how this busiest road contains a lot of the transport vehicles, and again, hence a lot of emissions. If we don't really curb it, this is the future that we will be looking at, right? And if I want to tie this to even more ideas here, I always go back to the idea that there's a lot of human impact, a lot of commercial impact, capitalist, neoliberalist agendas with the use of such vehicles, transporting all this industrial product, and even the trains along this busiest road. And yeah, this is also where the train kind of travels to. It kind of has a lot of impact on the climate, right? Because obviously emissions contribute to a sense of climate change, changing climate, global warming, which will lead us from this past present to here. Okay, and this is obviously a concern because before settlers or other people came to settle on this land of the Kikit territory, Kikit Nations, traditional Kikit Nations territory. This land probably wouldn't have been as industrialized. So all this developments, all these streets, all these pavements, all these roads created probably wouldn't look the same. Probably wouldn't even be there. Maybe, I mean, who knows? Who's to say, things would develop in certain ways. But it definitely, if you look at the map here, actually, we have little dips of green, right? We have Grimston Park, Great Park, a little bit of green here, some green over there. Look at all this green. Queen's Park, a lot of green here. But before all this, it was probably all natural, right? Yeah, Moody Park here. But it's definitely way more green space than ever if all these roads and settlements weren't created at all. At least way back when, but it's kind of hard to kind of imagine what that looked like. But that's kind of what my second part of my presentation will look like. I think this has gone on long enough. I've explained as much as I could. At least I think I did. So that'll be covered in the second part of my map presentation.